In this video, I'm gonna give you 3 easy recipes and show you how to use tahini as a base for endless combinations of dressings that you love and are catered to your own taste preferences. Dressings that can make even a kale salad taste super delicious. I find it's really important to master this technique if you want to empower yourself and succeed on a lifestyle that involves eating healthier. So here's the secret. The key to making an amazing, creamy, delicious dressing every single time is just applying these key components. You're gonna want a source of fat as your base. In this case, we're using tahini. I find it very consistent and I love using it for dressings. Then you're gonna wanna combine the fat base with these needed elements: sweet, salt, sour, bite, and heat. Okay, so let's start with the sweet, which is probably my favorite category. Here are some examples. I have maple syrup here. This is a really good one to use. I use this quite often. Coconut sugar is a nice one as well if you're looking for more of a low glycemic situation. If you're using a blender, you can use dates and figs or any other dried fruit. But most of these recipes I'm going to show you, you can just throw into a cup, mix with a fork, and shake it up and it's good to go. I like to keep these really simple, but you can make them as complicated and decadent as you want. And molasses is another good example for the sweet category. I know people love tamarinds, apricots if you wanted, agave. Spend some time fleshing out the sweet things that you really love and even have in your kitchen now, and maybe write them down. So the next category is salt. Everybody loves salt, some people don't. I have a number of examples on the table here. A Himalayan sea salt. I have a Himalayan salt, but most often I find myself using the coconut aminos. You can also use, tamari. I have olives and capers here as 2 other unconventional salt examples. If I was going for a Caesar-inspired style dressing, I might throw in like some green olives and some capers just to give it that classic taste. You can see how you can use elements in the salt group to complement different types of recipes that you'll be using. Alrighty, and moving on to the sour category. Lots of kind of self-explanatory things in here. Lemon and lime are great staples in the sour category. Apple cider vinegar is something I use really often with these dressings. Rice vinegar is a fun one to throw in here. So like say if you're making an Asian style dressing with, kelp granules, or other sea veggies, a rice vinegar would be nice to use. I don't have pickles right now. I do have pickled jalapenos, and this is a really kind of fun example that's a little bit spicy and a little bit sour. So pickle juice is a really nice one for a tangy element. And then I have nutritional yeast. I couldn't totally figure out which category to put it in. I didn't want to start a new cheese category. I followed the logic of yeast maybe equals sour, so nutritional yeast is in this category. Oh no. And balsamic vinegar is another good one for this category. If you're making something like a honey mustard, you can throw a little bit of balsamic in there for a little extra malt. So these are my go-to sour elements. And the ones I use the most are the citrus and the apple cider vinegar. I'm sure you can come up with some of your own elements at home that fit into this group. And now for the bite category. Classic bite items like garlic, onion, dried onion, and of course you can use dried garlic as well, or dried garlic salt. Mustard, like a good stone ground or a Dijon, or even a yellow mustard is great for like a special sauce. Turmeric as a bite, curry powder, ginger here as well, which again, if you're doing that Asian style dressing, you can throw some ginger into that rice vinegar, kelp granule example. So these are all different examples that you can use as that bite. I want to make a note that it's important to not think in terms of having to use one thing from each category. Oftentimes I'm using 1 to 3 things from each category, depending on, the level and depth of the dressing and also how much time I have. And now for the heat section, which is very exciting. I also have a little honorable portion of smoke type ingredients, which feel like they fit into the heat category. So otherwise known as spice. We have Frank's hot sauce. This is a favorite of mine. harissa hot sauce. I really love this lately. Primal Kitchen actually makes a really good buffalo sauce. It's a little higher fat, but oftentimes I will mix this in as a heat ingredient. Chipotle sauce, fresh jalapeno, cayenne pepper, any other fresh spicy peppers that you like. Getting into the smoke portion of things, smoked paprika. We have chipotle here, which kind of gets into the range of smoky, still spicy. Barbecue sauce. You can go crazy with this category. I have liquid smoke that I'll sometimes drop like just a couple tiny drops in if you really want that deep smoky flavor. Obviously, there's a number of other things that you can use here and really get creative with as well. All right, so this one is not in one of those categories of key elements, but I did want to provide it. And if you want to add pizzazz and snazz and just take your dressings up a notch, you want to add some dried and fresh herbs. We have the kelp granules that I keep talking about, everything but the bagel sauce seasoning, Bragg's 24 herbs and spices. I have dill here, which I find goes really well with like spicy dressings, cilantro. If you're using something as big as this with the fresh herbs, maybe throw it into a food processor or use a blender for that type of recipe, or you can kind of finely chop it and throw it in. Rosemary here, sage, oregano, fresh from the garden. Little garden flex there. I also really like to consider things like cumin, mint if you're doing something more Greek inspired, parsley, chives. So you can use whatever extra herbs or even, specialty items that you want to elevate your perfect, delicious dressing. Oh, and I have one more thing. I bought some black garlic the other day. I've never tried this. I hear it's a superfood. I feel like this would go really nicely like with a creamy balsamic dressing or like a creamy honey mustard. So just wanted to show that off too. You're gonna wanna add some other form of liquid to dilute the recipe that you made. And you're gonna do this just based on how thick you want the dressing, maybe how fatty you want the dressing to feel in a salad or in a bowl. Adding water to these is a really great method. You can also though add some sort of nut milk of your choice if you're trying to make it extra thick and creamy. And depending on the style of dressing you're creating, you can also think about adding maybe an extra element or your main element of sweet here by using something like orange juice or pineapple juice, that kind of thing. Now, of course, you can use this formula for all kinds of different fat sources as a base. Any kind of other nut butters like peanut butter, almond, pumpkin seed butter. There's cashew butter, of course, walnut butter. They make all kinds of butter, these kinds of butters. God. They seem to make all kinds of nut butters these days, and that's awesome. You can really utilize that to, complement the flavor or the style of dressing that you're trying to create. But I use tahini here and I use it often. I just find it to be super consistent, dependable, and it seems to be really versatile. Whatever direction I want to take it in terms of flavor and taste, it goes there with me. Okay, so let's dive into the recipe making examples from this formula. Here's the sweet heat dressing, so delicious. You're gonna start with 3 tablespoons of tahini as your base, 1 tablespoon of coconut aminos, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 tablespoon of maple syrup, 1 heaping tablespoon of nutritional yeast, 2 teaspoons of Frank's hot sauce, my favorite, 1 teaspoon of harissa, I butchered this earlier, 2 cloves of crushed garlic. You gotta do what you gotta do to get that garlic open. Get a little splash of lime in there. And a good douse of dried dill. And of course, Bragg's 24 herbs and spices, my favorite. I do 3 tablespoons of water for this one. You can try 2 if you like it a bit thicker. Then do a nice, thorough initial stir, get it going. And eventually you can just shake it all up, do your thing, and it's good to go. So now for the thick no honey mustard. Again, you'll start with 3 tablespoons of tahini, then add 2 tablespoons of stone ground mustard. You can use Dijon here as well if that's what you prefer. 1 tablespoon coconut aminos, 1 tablespoon maple syrup, 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and 1 teaspoon of balsamic vinegar. A little douse of onion powder, 1/8 teaspoon of mustard powder, and I threw some fresh rosemary in here. You can use any herb you like, but this pairs superbly with the no honey mustard. And then add 2 tablespoons of water. So same as the last one, stir it up a bit initially here and then give it a good old shake as well. And finally, for the creamy smoked barbecue. Again, add 3 tablespoons of tahini as a base. Are you sensing the pattern here? 2 tablespoons of barbecue sauce. Again, I like to use this nice Primal Kitchen one. 1 teaspoon of chipotle sauce. This is from Siete. Squeeze in about a half a lime. And add a hefty douse of onion powder, half a tablespoon of maple syrup, 1 teaspoon molasses, a touch of pickled jalapeno juice. You can use pickle juice too, a tiny touch of liquid smoke, 1/8 teaspoon of garlic salt, and a smattering of black pepper. So now it's time to add your water, 2 tablespoons for this one, and repeat the old stir and shake method. These 3 dressings are definitely on high rotation in my house, and you can see just how easy it is to play around with the sweet, salt, sour, bite, heat formula and really experiment and just have fun with this. I know some of this might sound slightly complicated or a little bit overwhelming. Make sure you don't let that infiltrate your brain. Just kind of keep things simple. Try to grab a couple or even 1 different element from each category and just start playing around. You know, you can do little taste tests, you can add things as you go, and it really will become second nature soon, and you can just be able to create recipes on the fly very easily with a lot of confidence. Just remember the rule and then, you know, the specialty items that you can add around that. And just build on your creations from there. Let your mind let go of any rigidity around this. It's really nice to kind of be in a state of flow and just get a couple basic ones down that you really love. And then it becomes second nature of knowing how to put these together and how to be much more creative and, you know, exploratory with different things you're making. To me, this has been one of the most important things to lock down in terms of succeeding on a raw vegan diet, on a plant-based diet, or even just trying to eat healthier. Having the right sauce and understanding this very simple concept goes a really long way when it comes to enjoying the plant-based meals that you're eating. Making those salads and bowls and burritos come alive is really important. Please let me know what you end up making, and I'd love to try it myself.